Let's get more on the overhaul of Australia's environment laws. I'm joined from Brisbane by Nicola Bynon from Humane Society International. Nicola, good evening. Let's work through some of these proposals, shall we? The Environment Protection Agency that's proposed, do you support that?
Yes, we do. And the problem with our current environment laws is that they have too much discretion for poor decision-making that allows political outcomes to motivate decisions rather than environmental outcomes. So it is a very positive announcement that there will be an independent Environment Protection Agency for environmental decision-making, guided by a set of national environment standards. So that should quarantine decisions from short-term political interests and put nature first.
Will it have power? Will its decisions be legally binding?
It will have power and it will be legally binding. One of the things that we'll be looking at is how it's constituted and to make sure that it is genuinely independent and at arm's length from government. And that's some of the detail that's still to come with these reforms. What's been announced today is the framework, and it's very promising, but there's a lot of detail and there's a long way to go before we can be totally confident that it's going to do the job of stopping Australia's extinction crisis.
OK. One of the other areas, protections for areas of national environmental significance. What sort of areas would that cover?
So that's already in our current laws, and matters of national environmental significance include World Heritage, National Heritage, all of Australia's threatened species, and there's about 2,000 of them, migratory species, the Commonwealth Marine Area. They're all matters of national environmental significance for the federal government to take charge of. The problem has been that there's been no standards for those decisions, and ministers have been free to make really bad decisions so long as they've followed process and ticked the boxes. So it's the standards that have been announced today that will hopefully deliver some real protection for those places. But of course, those standards are yet to be written, and that's key.
What's said in this consultation, in this document, about logging and native forests?
In our current laws, forestry has been exempt from the protections. Regional forest agreements have had exemptions, and that's been a tragedy for the last 2 decades. What's been committed to today is applying those new national standards to forestry, and we're not sure on the timing for it, and if we're going to fulfil the government's commitment of no new extinctions, then strong national standards need to apply to forestry as soon as possible.
OK. One of the perhaps more contentious issues is the development of an offset fund, which is welcomed, I believe, by the developers. But do you think it's a good thing?
Offsets are hugely problematic. They've not been working. They rarely manage to offset the destruction that's approved by them. So there's a lot of cynicism about offsets. The minister's promising reform of offsets, and that's good, but one of the central principles of offsets has been to always find like for like. So if you're allowing destruction of, say, koala habitat over here, then you need to compensate that by protecting similar koala habitat over there. That like for like commitment is possibly going to be given up in favour of being able to make a conservation payment, and that's really troubling. If you can't find like for like, then that probably tells you that the biodiversity that you're dealing with is irreplaceable, and therefore you need to put a red line around it and you need to protect it, and not allow a proponent to pay to destroy it. So we're concerned about that, but we are also keen to talk to the Minister about the reforms that are needed for biodiversity offsets to make that much less of a risk for our threatened species.
Nicola, we're looking a couple of years down the line, even if it does get through Parliament. There's a lot of discussion to go before then. I mean, one of the key issues is how a new department, how these changes are going to be funded. Is there funding in the pipeline?
We truly hope so. One of the reasons why our current environment laws have failed is because they have been starved of funds, and all the potential in current legislation has not been fulfilled due to lack of money. If we are going to turn around the extinction crisis, and there's 2,000 species queuing up for extinction in Australia, and we are already one of the worst countries in the world for extinctions. If we're going to turn that around, we do need more funding, and that needs to be public funding too. So we will be looking to the budget next year and hoping that there is going to be a quantum leap in funding for the environment so that our species can stop sliding towards extinction and start recovering.
Nicola Bynum from Humane Society International, thank you very much.
You're welcome.